Hi, I'm Brandy, and I'm the mom behind Aunt Bindi's bookshelf. On this channel, we help moms as they help their kids learn and grow. Today, we're going to do that by talking about different ways to encourage play-based learning at your house. In my last video, we talked about play-based learning. We talked about what it is, ways that you're already doing it, and ways that it benefits kids. I'm going to link that video in the description below. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. Now that we know what PBL is, let's talk about the important stuff, how we can encourage more of it. It is so easy. Let's go through some ideas on how to get more of it into our lives. Okay, here are some tips. 1, allow for dramatic and imaginative play. Have you ever been watching your kiddo play and you can just see like the gears grinding inside their head as they're trying to figure something out? Or you can see the world that they're building inside their head when they play with different toys? That is golden. That's what we're looking for. Tip number 2, get outside. There has been a ton of research done, you can find it just about anywhere, on how beneficial it is, not just for kids, but for adults, to get outside. I think one of the best things about getting outside with our kids is that there's really no expectations for us when we get outside. There's no right way to be outside. Kind of frees us up as parents, frees them up as kids to play without restriction. Tip number 3, encourage sensory play. A huge part of play is exploring our world, and especially for younger kids, part of that exploration involves the senses. Things like, what does this feel like on my hands? What does this taste like? What happens if I drop this? Things like that, and sensory play is a huge part of this. I will do a video on a super economical sensory bin that you can create. If you are worried about the mess that sometimes is involved with sensory play, you can go ahead and make sure that that sensory play is outside, and then you have hit tip number 2 and tip number 3 all in one outing. Tip number 4, ask questions. Ask so many questions. If, say you're at a pumpkin patch, ask, why do you think the pumpkin feels like that? Why the pumpkin is dirty? Why do you think the pumpkin is dirty? Ask tons of questions. Have you ever had someone ask you a question and you're like, oh my gosh, I had never thought of it like that? That's what you're looking for with your kids. And if they ask you a question that you don't know the answer to, ask them back. Say, I don't know, why do you think that is? What do you think? What about this? And then look it up together. Ask questions, get them thinking. All right, tip number 6, talk a lot. There have been so many studies done on the importance of language in kids' development. And most of that language comes from home, right? Because that's where we are. So talk about everything. Talk about nothing. Keep a running narration going. I am by nature a talker. I talk all the time. And I swear that my kids were super excited to leave for school just because they didn't want to hear me talk anymore. But I'll tell you, they had a pretty amazing vocabulary. Let me give you an example of some ways that talking helps. If, say you're playing with your kids, right? And you don't need to play with them all the time, just play with them sometimes. Say you are playing with a dollhouse. So you can have, say dad goes upstairs, lays on the bed. Sister sits next to the TV. Brother goes outside. The dog stays inside. All of those words that you just used, you're introducing positional vocabulary. All of that is stuff that they're going to learn in preschool and kindergarten, things like that. All of that is important stuff, and you have just introduced all of it while playing with a dollhouse. Tip number 7, read, read, read. Part of this comes back to language. The more you read, the more you speak. And also part of it comes back to creating readers. I love books. I collect books the way that some people collect purses. I've been known to literally stroke the spine of a book. Even if you are not a book psychopath like me, keep books in your home. You want to make sure that kids are familiar with books, that they are touching books, that they are flipping the pages, that they're looking at the pictures. If your kids aren't quite ready yet, if they're not quite gentle enough with books, board books still are books. They absolutely count, and they're a lot sturdier for little hands. As an example of how important book reading is, in Colorado, where I am, I believe there are 36 different language arts Common Core points that they try to target every year. Every time you read a story, you are practicing roughly 24 of those points just by reading a story. That's how important reading books is to early development. The final tip, and what I think is maybe the most important, is to follow their lead. What I'm saying here is let them tell you what they want to learn. That does not mean that preschoolers and toddlers get to dictate how your family runs, how their life runs. It's not feasible, and it's probably not healthy, right? Like, they have to take a bath at some point, and they can't just make a new life for themselves at the park. We need to leave at some point. But what I'm saying is let them show you what they want to learn. Say you just got a brand new box of a mazillion magnetic tiles. Your kid has no interest in it. That's okay. It doesn't mean that their admission to MIT is doomed. It just means that they maybe want to paint today. And that's okay. Let them tell you what they need to learn right now. All right, as we finish up, I just want to encourage you that you are doing such a good job. You are here, you care about your kids, you're searching the internet for the best way to serve your babies. You got this. You are doing amazing. Go ahead and hit subscribe if you want to join our community. We can navigate these waters together. Hope you have an amazing day, Mama.